Tonight on the Black Channel, remember when they were always telling us that there was nothing they could do about those mean old Republicans gutting the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act? Well, don't look now, but seems there's a group of people who figured out a way to breathe new life into it. Go figure. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent Black thought. This is the BlackChannel.net radio program, and I am, of course, your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening at the only historically black college and university of higher education left today in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, we're going to be dealing with a few things as we go along here. A little housekeeping that I do want to do here, of course. I'm going to be sending out an email here in the next couple of days to everybody who did not get their perks for our documentary film Race Wars, so please be looking for that going forward here, among other things. Also, there have been people who have been, I've been getting people who have been hitting me up about the Mother's Day incident with the Shreveport Police Department. There was a situation on Devon Street, and there's a video that's been going around. Brothers and sisters, there's a reason why I don't say anything when certain stuff happens. There's a reason why I don't say anything. So for those of you who have been asking me about it and whatnot, it is not, understand, I speak on the ones that need to be spoken on. For this particular video, which there's been a clipped version running around, brothers and sisters, there's a reason why I haven't said anything about it. Long story short here, because there are other details. They've got witnesses on the scene who basically their statements corroborate what the police said. So don't leap at this. When something does come up, and if it does happen, then be aware. When it's time to jump, I will tell you it's time to jump. But as far as that's concerned, just be aware. Yes, I do know about it. No, this is not the one. This is not the one. So, be that as it may, just wanted to let you all know you can stop tagging me about it. Yes, I know. And there's not enough, there's nothing to work with on there, to be totally honest. There really isn't. I know you might not want to hear that, but when we get a viable candidate, we'll let you know. But this is not the one you want to back. For those of you who are not aware, there's a couple of things I need to deal with here tonight, as a matter of fact here. Now, you know full damn well I am going to be talking about this bastard right here. You all know full damn well Joe Biden, I've been waiting for a while to give you the business, and the business you shall receive. But you all know I've been waiting a while to give him the business, and I'm going to continue giving him the business. And that's just the bottom line of it. But before I do that, I wanted to discuss this. Black people, it is now official. Dr. Claude Anderson has been saying it for decades, that the discussion in America before 1980 was strictly about black and white, and that the goal of the dominant society and the political establishment was to change that, so that the discussion was no longer black and white. The discussion would now be black and white and brown and Asian. It would just be this big schmoz, this big mashup. And the only people with a legitimate grievance, with a legitimate enforceable grievance against the United States, the descendants of slaves in America, that we would be pushed off of the stage and that our issue would be buried under all of these other things. That these other people would be given micro concessions, but that we, who take up the lion's share of what this country owes, that we would finally be removed from the stage. And after decades now of bait and switch, benign neglect, smoke and mirrors, sleight of hand, brothers and sisters, we're not on our way. We are here now. Black people have officially been shoved off of the stage of American political agendas. We're not on our way to being off the stage. We're off of it now. They have pushed us to the side, and they are discussing anything and everything except us. That's it. We're not on our way to it. We're there now. This is it. No more talking about what's gonna happen. We're here now. And they are now telling you that they are going to deal with any other issue other than us. Because they now want to prop up other groups for the purposes of finally displacing and supplanting their former labor force. And that now we would be buried in the political process, that we couldn't even vote our way to anything because they have flooded the zone with so many other people who are against our interests. They're non-white people, but they vote like the dominant society. They are non-white people, but they vote like the dominant society. That's what they've done now. They brought in illegal aliens. They brought in guest workers. They're trying to split things along gender lines. They're trying to split things along sexuality, gender identity politics. So now you've got a bunch of black folk even, who they themselves are black, but they do not vote like black people. They vote like members of the dominant society. They are not Republicans. They are not Clarence Thomases. They're Simone Sanders. They're Lee Daniels. Yeah, they're not Republicans, but they still don't vote like black people. They vote like the dominant society. And this is where we are today. Now, earlier this week, the House, not the Senate, but the House, which is Democrat-controlled, passed the so-called Equality Act. Now, as you'll all remember, our good friend Kamala Harris, the California giant, was trumpeting about the Equality Act, Cory Corny Booker, after Jussie Smollett's hoax. Kamala Harris and Cory Booker were both screaming from the rafters about how what happened to Jussie Smollett just illustrates why we need to pass the Equality Act. Now, it's already illegal to assault people. The Equality Act don't do a damn thing for that. But they told you, hey, Jussie Smollett claims he got beat up, pass the Equality Act. As if somehow there was some sort of impediment. Remember that? Well, now the House, under Nancy Pelosi, has passed They have passed the Equality Act. Now they're going to try to get it through the Senate. It looks unlikely, but don't assume anything. Don't assume anything. However, it does appear to be unlikely that it'll pass. Now, I want to read for you from the article here on CNN. I want to read part of this article because I want you to listen to what they had to say. This is from Ashley Kellogg. And what it says is the House passed legislation Friday that would protect those living in states where it's legal to discriminate based on sexual orientation and gender identity in employment, housing, and other services, as well as access to public accommodations such as restaurants. Now, brothers and sisters, have you ever heard CNN speak like this about the police killing black people? Everything with us is alleged, supposed, they claim, witnesses say, or they just quote the police as what the police say is fact. But they never speak about black folks' issues this way. That this is a law that will protect those living in states where it's legal to victimize black people. They don't speak about that as a statement of fact. They didn't say those who support it say. Now listen to what it says next. The bill, known as the Equality Act, would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and other civil rights laws to include sexual orientation and gender identity as protected characteristics. But critics argue it raises serious concerns for religious communities as well as women's sports. So now, all you women out there who were defending this kind of thing and LGBT, you're about to catch it on the chin. They suckered you into a trick bag, and now you're about to catch it on the chin. Now, it goes on to say, conservatives argue the bill threatens freedom of speech, religion, and women's rights. In a heated floor debate before the vote, Republicans pointed to a provision in the bill that says an individual could not be denied access to a restroom, locker room, or dressing room based on their gender identity. Opponents say that would force women and girls to share private spaces with men. Critics also say the bill could facilitate men participating in women's sports as if they identify as female. And that is absolutely correct. So, brothers and sisters, your good Democrat friends want to make it the law that Jeffrey Dahmer has the right to follow your daughter into the girls' bathroom at Walmart. If you send your daughter into the girls' bathroom at Walmart, they want to make it legal that Representative Anthony Weiner or any of the perverts in Hollywood would now legally be able to follow your daughter into the bathroom at Walmart, Target, a restaurant. See, you all thought that pedophile bills were going to be passed with the word pedophile in it. Oh, no. Once you opened up the LGBT thing, that was all they needed. It is not called pedophilia anymore. It is called sexual orientation and gender identity. And now you all have to understand something. You don't have to be gay to have a so-called alternate gender identity. You can be a grown man who is attracted to females and claim that you've got an alternate gender identity, that you're not really a male. You don't identify as a male all of the time. Do you realize that? You can actually claim that you don't identify as a male all the time. So Simone Sanders and Sean King and Mark Lamont Hill understand something. They want to make it easy for this kind of thing to happen. Do you all realize how many sexual perverts there are in the United States government, in Hollywood, in the media, at national networks like CNN and whatnot? You can go Google the stories for yourselves. All of these perverts everywhere, and now they want to make it the law that it is legal for a grown man to enter the bathroom with your 5-year-old daughter. No, I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being exaggerating. This is not an exaggeration. I'm being literal. They're trying to make this the law now. There will be no way for you to prevent it. This is why we as black people, we can have no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And I have no interest in some pervert, some Jerry Sandusky having legal rights to go into the bathroom with your children. And this is a Jerry Sandusky law that they're trying to enact now, so that it'll make it much easier to prey upon your children. Well, Jason, do you really think it's going to be a bunch of kids getting raped in bathrooms? Here's the problem, and I want those of you who have children to listen to me very carefully. Do you understand that this is not about sexually penetrating your children in a bathroom? Do you understand that this is about getting the ability to take naked pictures of your children? This is about having the ability to get pictures of your children, video of your children that will find its way to the dark web. And your child is going to be out there somewhere. Your child. Do you understand that? For those of you who have children, do you understand that? This is what you're up against. They're going to make it, this is going to make it so yeah, you all didn't think about it that way. You thought it had to be sexual assault. No, just for perverts who want to walk in there with pinhole cameras or whatever. Your little daughter goes to the bathroom at one of these places. Jerry Sandusky gets in the stall next to her, and next thing you know, your child is on Instagram or YouTube somewhere. And YouTube, which allows nudity, for those of you who did not know, YouTube actually allows nudity. If you want to know how some of these things get around YouTube's, quote, filters, YouTube actually allows nudity. Go check out Justin Timberlake's video, Tunnel Vision, on YouTube. I'm talking about full-fledged nudity. Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines with Pharrell, full-blown nudity. I'm not talking about they're in various states of undress or scantily clad or they're wearing dental floss. No, I mean naked breasts and everything else. That's on YouTube now. If you want to know, now your daughter somewhere can end up on YouTube by, quote, accident. By accident. Now, I want you to understand that this is the situation that we're in right now. They are trying to recreate the plantation sexual abuse environment, but just like they have transformed the society into the prison, just like they have transformed the entire society is now the prison, they are now attempting to transform the entire society into the whorehouse so that you will be a moving target anywhere and everywhere. That's where we're at now. And understand something. You're thinking about this in places that you think you can protect your children. Can you protect your children at school? Oh no, I am here to make you as unsettled and disturbed as humanly possible. You can protect your children at Walmart. You can protect your children at Target. Can you protect your children from going to the bathroom at their school? Can you protect them from that with all these teachers having sex with all these students and targeting all these children at these schools? Are you going to be able to protect your kids at the school? Can you do that? Will you be able to do that? Oh, you're going to be big and buck. You're going to be big and buck, right? You're going to go up there and threaten somebody, right? Yeah, you're ready for one thing. You ain't ready for how far this goes. You're not ready for how far this will go. And a lot of you who are parents haven't thought this over. Your kids at school, your kids at camp, your kids in after-school activities at other places. If they go to other places for after-school activities, like for gymnastics, if they use some type of private business or whatever. Some schools don't have all the equipment. They may have a private business that they do it at, or a private place they go to, or someplace off of school grounds. Yeah, you used to be able to just make the assumption. Can you still make that assumption? As African people in America, we cannot marry ourselves to any of these degenerate European practices. We can't marry ourselves to any of these degenerate European ideologies. We cannot do that. This is a European ideology. This is a European way of doing things. This is a European practice and a European lifestyle, and they are trying to indoctrinate black people as a group to adopt it. They found a few perverted, disgusted, contaminated deviants, and now they're trying to get everybody else to just go along. That's what they're trying to do now. Now, when you read this article, it talks about how they are using the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that has never, ever been enforced in the interests of black people. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 has never been enforced for black people. It is an empty law on the books that ignores the people that it supposedly was created for. It has never been enforced for us, but now they're going to try to shoehorn in other groups, and we're going to enforce it for them. And you mean to tell me some jackass is going to sit up here and tell me that I got to go vote? Go vote for what? For who? What are they offering? Because you spent 6 decades now telling us that you can't enforce the Civil Rights Act of 1964, 65, and all of the supposed others. You couldn't enforce it for us. But now in 2019, when they were gutting the Civil Rights Act, when the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, did the Democrats pass an act to patch that together, brothers and sisters? Did the Democrats move a muscle after the Supreme Court gutted the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act? Did the Democrats come up with any laws to patch that up? Did they move a muscle to patch any of those up when it was us? Tell me, brothers and sisters, I did the program about them gutting the Voting Rights Act. Did the Democrats ever come back with another law to try to pass an act for the purposes of reversing what the Supreme Court did? And we weren't being protected under the Voting Rights Act as it was, but when the Supreme Court said, we ain't got to obey that anymore, did the Democrats get together and say, we need to make such a law here? Show me where they've moved for us. I'd like to know. So now the discussion isn't about black people, who are the most oppressed, targeted group in this country. Now it's about people's gender identity, who are suffering no negative consequences at all, but we're supposed to detour and derail the conversation off into something else? This is where we are now. This is who you're up against now. So when you have somebody sitting up here talking about be afraid of Donald Trump, that's a Negro that ain't listening. You've got your so-called friends advocating for why they can ignore your very existence. This is the problem that we have. And I'm just here to sound the alarm for you. Brothers and sisters, they're not on their way to pushing us out of the discussion. We have been pushed out of the discussion, and what that means is that now we gotta come back swinging. We gotta come out of the gate. We gotta come out of the corner like Tyson in his prime. We just got to be slinging lefts and rights. We gotta come out of this damn thing throwing haymakers everywhere. You are not going to leave us out of the discussion, and if you attempt to do so, we will take affirmative action. If you attempt to do so, we will take affirmative action. Well, Jason, what does affirmative action, the way you're describing it here, what exactly does that look like? Well, brothers and sisters, it looks a lot like this. Oh, there's old slow Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden figured that after all these decades that the world had forgot. Joe Biden is going off on CNN and MSNBC, you know, television, you know, TV, you know, that old square box that nobody watches anymore. Joe Biden is trying to fight for the presidency over there. That's where he's trying to fight. Joe Biden is trying to win the presidency on CNN and ABC. That's what Joe Biden is trying to do now. Joe is trying to win the White House on cable television. But oh, there was a speed bump on the way to Pennsylvania Ave. There was a big-ass speed bump called Intelligent Black Society on the way to Pennsylvania Ave. And Joe don't know what to do now. So Joe Biden, the issue for Joe Biden is the crime bill that he was so happy about. And if you have not watched Professor Black Truth's video that he just released this week about Joe Biden and the crime bill, if you haven't watched it, it's a masterful commentary on it. If you really want to get up to speed really quickly, go to Professor Black Truth's channel and check out that video. But Joe Biden is on the defense. Joe Biden is on the defensive now. Joe Biden is having to answer for the sins of his past. And brothers and sisters, we all remember now, this is what they're scared about. We all remember what happened when Hillary Clinton thought she was going to do that. We all remember when Hillary Clinton thought to herself that the crime bill was a minor issue. Remember that? Hillary Clinton didn't think the crime bill of 1994 was going to be a big problem. Hillary Clinton didn't think the crime bill of 1994 was going to hurt her chances against Trump. Hillary Clinton figured she could duck and dodge around it and sidestep it and everything would be okay. Hillary Clinton found out the wrong damn way. No, this isn't a speed bump. This is a brick wall. Now, what I want to do here is I want to get you to an article that from CNN again, because in the Boston Globe, they did an article. Well, Boston Globe did this article here. Boston Globe did the article, and in the article from James Pendell, Joe Biden was in New Hampshire a few days ago, and he said, quote, "Folks, let's get something straight. 92 out of every 100 prisoners behind bars are in a state prison, not a federal prison," Biden said when asked about the bill's role in the country's high incarceration rate. This idea that the crime bill created mass incarceration, it did not create mass incarceration. Now, brothers and sisters, if you watch Professor Black Truth's video, or if you've been listening here to the Black Channel, you understand that, first of all, the crime bill gave money to the states if they enacted truth in sentencing laws of their own. So the federal government incentivized the states to follow their lead in mass incarceration. Joe didn't say a word about that. He didn't say anything about it because he couldn't. Joe Biden also didn't say anything about the fact, he didn't mention a single word about the fact that his crime law that he wrote, the crime bill that he wrote, targets black people. He didn't say a word about that. So he's hoping that he can pull an Obama. Joe Biden is hoping that there's enough Obama juice dripping on him that he'll be able to squeeze through the door and slither and slime his way through. That's literally what he's trying to do right now. But there's something even worse than that. There's something even worse than that, and I'm going to come back to that here in just a few moments. But that was what he said there. Now, CNN did an article about this, about the speech that he gave. CNN did an article. And in this article, they were fact-checking Joe Biden's statements. So why don't we go ahead and see what they had to say by Holmes Lindbrand. During a campaign event in Nashua, New Hampshire on Tuesday, Democratic presidential frontrunner Joe Biden was asked about the 1994 crime bill he helped write as a senator from Delaware. Now, brothers and sisters, first of all, these campaign stops, they're full of nothing but Democrat operatives. You can't get into one of these little old pissant rallies unless you're already a member of the party. So these are members of their staff. It's a phony so-called audience for the purposes of being props in a photo shoot. So don't think for a second that these questions were spontaneous. Biden's people have let him know that he is in deep ass trouble and that he needs to address the crime bill. So they've tried to give him a way of addressing it without actually addressing it. But I'm going to get to a moment here what's so diabolical about what's going on right now. So it says the question posed to Biden concerned the impact the bill had on mass incarceration rates, particularly among minority communities living in poverty, and what he might do to alleviate those effects. Quote, "Folks, let's get something straight. This idea that the crime bill generated mass incarceration, it did not generate mass incarceration." Now, here's what CNN's fact-checking says. Following passage of the 1994 crime bill, incarceration rates in the U.S. continued to rise for more than a decade. Experts say it's hard to determine how much of this increase came as a result of the 1994 bill, since incarceration rates had been steadily rising since the early 70s. From 1973 to 2009, the incarceration rate in the U.S. more than quadrupled from 161 people to 776 per 100,000 nationwide, according to a study by the National Research Council. It's hard to pin that trend on one particular piece of legislation. Quote, no one bill created mass incarceration, Wanda Bertram, communications strategist at the Prison Policy Initiative, said Tuesday, noting that the 1994 crime bill was one part of the overall tough on crime movement that contributed to the 4-decade rise in the U.S. prison population. One of the largest crime bills ever passed, 1994's Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, strengthened law enforcement across the country, providing federal money for new cops and prisons, as well as tightening up federal sentencing guidelines. Now, brothers and sisters, you know that CNN is basically the white supremacist news network. So notice that they tried to defend Biden at first. They tried to deflect attention and say, well, you know, it was just there was a bunch of legislation. It's hard to tell which was which. But that's not the question. The question is, what role did Joe Biden play in it, and what role did his actions play in it? And it becomes very clear very quickly, yeah, it did create mass incarceration. And this idea that it was only about, well, only 8% of U.S. prisoners are in the federal system. What he left out is, oh, by the way, we gave a bunch of money for new cops and new prisons at the state and local level. It goes on to say, it included a federal 3 strikes provision mandating life imprisonment for certain felons convicted of violent crimes, and expanded the death penalty to include 60 additional crimes. The bill also included a ban on 18 different types of semi-assault weapons for the next decade. At the Nashua event on Tuesday, Biden argued that the federal prisoners make up a small share of the total prison population in the U.S., which is true. Federal prisoners account for roughly 10% of the total number of people incarcerated in the U.S. The point Biden appeared to be making was that the 1994 bill couldn't have created or greatly attributed to mass incarceration, since it only applied to violations of federal law, not state crimes. But that misses the broader impact that federal policy can have on the way that states incarcerate, including the influence of federal money. As a report from the Brennan Center notes, the 1994 crime bill, quote, provided funding for 100,000 new police officers and $14 billion in grants for community-oriented policing, for example. It is fair to say that the trajectory of increased incarceration had already begun before the 1994 crime bill. Kara Gotch, Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Sentencing Project, told CNN Tuesday, before noting that the way Congress and the president, quote, influence state policy is through money. The 1994 crime bill tried to do just that in offering grants for new prisons to states who impose truth in sentencing policies, which impose mandatory minimums for time served. So, for those of you, if you haven't seen Professor Black Truth's video, he goes into detail about this. But the bottom line is that they paid the states money and would help subsidize building new prisons in states that followed and created their own 3 strikes, mandatory minimum, no parole laws of their own. And guess what? Most of the states now have their own version of 3 strikes or mandatory minimum sentencing, no parole. Now most of the states have their own version of that. That was what Joe Biden engineered so that he could try to come back 20 years later. Remember, he was planning on this then, and try to claim, oh, I'm not responsible for what the states did. Yeah, but you told us you are responsible for it because you told the states that you would pay them money if they imitated the laws that you created at the federal level. You paid the states to replicate the laws you made at the federal level, and now the states and the federal level are both in agreement and congruence with each other. The 1994 crime bill tried to do just that in offering grants for new prisons to states who impose truth in sentencing policies, which impose mandatory minimums for time served. Initially, the crime bill required states to pass laws mandating violent offenders serve at least 85% of their sentence before those states could receive truth in sentencing grant funds. As I just told you all, it required that the states had to pass their own versions of the federal law before they could get federal money to build more prisons. So they were paying the states to imitate their laws. The story goes on to say, for example, a study from the Urban Institute found that out of the 16 states that changed their truth in sentencing laws following the 1994 crime bill and that qualified for federal truth in sentencing funding, quote, the changes were often influenced more by ongoing state reform processes rather than the federal incentive grant program. The study says that states were already imposing their own minimum sentencing laws before the 1994 crime bill, and at most the bill, quote, may have contributed to modest changes in sentencing structure for a small number of cases. That is not true. And they go on to say the impact was as much rhetorical, said Bertram, as it was a bill that increased the number of people in prison. That is not true. This was funding the states directly. And so CNN is trying to sprinkle powdered sugar on this pile of vomit. That's not true. That is a complete lie. The states didn't have the ability to do any of these things. If you all remember, it got kicked into high gear. There were only a couple of states that could even afford to do it, and most of them are overcrowded. Take a look at California, Alabama, New York, gross overcrowding. They needed federal funds to be able to do that. They needed private corporations, but most importantly, the federal money. So CNN is trying to put together a propagandistic piece. Even in their so-called fact-checking, they just go straight to lying. And notice they didn't say a word about the impact on black people. Not a word. Did you notice that CNN didn't say a word? They are on code with Joe Biden and the Democrats to hand out their white supremacist propaganda. CNN is on code with them. CNN is lockstep with them. Because CNN wants to see more black people imprisoned, not fewer. And Joe Biden is their best candidate. Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders are second string. Cory Booker is third in place, but he has no problem locking up Negroes everywhere, left, right, and center. Now, what I want to do is I want to bring you back to a point here, because there is something that I do not want you to miss, and I do not want you to forget in all of this. When we talk about this so-called Equality Act to allow grown men to walk into the bathroom with your daughters. When we talk about the so-called Equality Act, when we talk about Joe Biden sitting up here and outright saying that he's defending the 1994 crime bill, brothers and sisters from around the world, I want you to remember this. The Democrats are officially saying that they are trading in black society, that they are going to see, as I told you all months ago, they're going to see if they can cobble together a coalition of sexual deviants, white supremacists, bigots, and other assorted ne'er-do-wells, and see if those can help compensate for the black vote that they now realize they cannot count on. They're now trying to compensate for the amount of the black vote that they know they cannot count on. Joe Biden is speaking to the bigot wing of white society. And he's doing the opposite of Kamala Harris. He's doing the opposite of Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton tried to say she didn't agree with the 1994 crime bill, even though she supported it, and then tried to go back and go get, quote, white working class voters. Joe Biden is doing the opposite. Joe Biden is saying, I am courting the bigot vote in white society. I am courting the bigot wing in white society. And I believe that there are enough middle of the road white supremacist bigot voters who want black folk behind bars, who are interested in maintaining white supremacy and white privilege. And so I'm talking to them. Yes, I passed the crime bill. No, it didn't cause mass incarceration. We only locked up the folks who needed to get locked up. But Joe Biden is defending the 3 strikes law. Joe Biden is outright defending it now because he believes that there are enough bigot voters out there that he can shave off from Trump because they're not interested in doing anything for black people because we've started saying dangerous things like tangibles. We started saying dangerous things like reparations. We've started saying dangerous things like show us results we can measure. We've started saying dangerous things like that. So they are now outright abandoning the black vote and saying, let's see if we can trade the black vote in for something else. Bill de Blasio, the whacked out, cracked out mayor of New York, has thrown his hat in the ring that he wants to run for president also. So what, you got like 24 Democrats trying to run for president now? This has officially turned into the circus. This is officially Barnum and Bailey now. But Bill de Blasio they just passed a law there in New York that allows illegal aliens to get health insurance. Now, at the end of the 19th century, they started trying to bring in as many immigrants as they could halfway through, actually throughout the 19th century, in reality. 18th century through the 20th century, they tried to bring in as many non-black immigrants as they could. But particularly the 18th century to the halfway through the 19th century, they were giving land to white folk from Europe to come to America. They wanted to give them a head start. They wanted to give them a leg up and a head start. They gave them the land grants. They gave them resources so that they didn't just come here to America starting with nothing. Now, black folk, when we left the plantations, we are the only people in America who actually had to earn everything we got. But I'm telling you, understand the pathology. They did it in the 18th century, bringing white immigrants over here and giving them all sorts of advantages from the get-go. Advantages that they refused to give to black people. Weren't no African immigrants getting any free land in America. You have to ask yourselves why. Because they would rather have a white immigrant than a black American. They would rather take their chances and roll the dice with a white immigrant than with a black American. So you have to give the white immigrants all sorts of unfair, unearned advantages right out of the gate. You got to give them all sorts of preferential treatment so that they come out of the gate with advantages over black people to make it as easy as possible for them to get into the middle class and upper middle class. So they're giving these folks free health care. They're telling the police, now, you can be arrested for driving while black in Los Angeles, but they have now made it illegal to be arrested for driving while Latino in Los Angeles. All sorts of advantages that they told you that they simply could not extend to us, and by the way, are still saying that they can't extend to us, because if you're black in Los Angeles, you can still get pulled over by the police and get your car impounded if you don't have insurance. It is the law, well, the sheriff anyway, it's not the legal written law. But the cops out there, they've already stated they're not going to do anything to illegals because it would be, quote, a hardship on them. So in effect, you have outlawed driving while Latino. At the same time, the sheriff, I believe it was, then turned around and said, oh yeah, but everybody else, you got to have insurance, not the illegals. So in other words, Latinos, they don't pull over white people. Now they don't pull over Asians. Now they've said that we're not going to pull over Latinos anymore. That only leaves your black ass. Black people are the only folk that they're pulling over now. In Los Angeles and Los Angeles County, we're the only people that they're pulling over. We're the only ones that they're going at. No, if you want to say I'm lying, go Google it for yourselves. Go Google it for yourselves. And that's not the only place. If you want to do drugs in the New England states, the only people really being arrested for drug use are black folk. New Hampshire, Maine, Delaware, Connecticut. The only people that they're really arresting are black people. The only people that they're hitting with the 3 strikes is black folk. White people are being told that you can go shoot up your drugs. So if you do heroin, we'll give you free needles. We'll give you a shoot up site where you can go do your drugs. No mass incarceration for you. Oh, but if you do crack, or if you're black, all of a sudden you're getting arrested. Governor Paul LePage, all of a sudden you're getting arrested. So no, it's not just the illegal aliens. They've weaved all types of laws that exempt themselves and exempt everyone else except us. We're the only ones that the laws actually apply to. We're the only ones. And the Democrats are now no longer even making any bones about it. They are a party of white supremacist sympathizers, and blacks who identify with white supremacists. That is the Democratic Party today. So would you rather have your full-flavored white supremacy in Donald Trump, or would you rather have diet Coke Zero white supremacy in Joe Biden and the Democrats? Whichever flavor you prefer, whichever formulation you would like, you can get it how you live. Whichever one you want. If you want full-flavored white supremacy, or if you want Coke Zero white supremacy, same great taste, can hardly tell the difference between that and the full-flavored thing. This is where we are today. Jason Black, what do we do about this? First of all, we as a people, I keep telling you this, but I'm going to keep drilling the point home. First and foremost, we must be on code, on code, on code. We have got to have a personal code of conduct that acknowledges and recognizes that the black person sitting next to you is your best chance for survival, and we're all we got. Second of all, we have to have an economic code that goes hand in hand with the personal code. That we must build up black empowerment, a black economic platform for ourselves as a people. We cannot be poor, we cannot be beggars, we cannot be economic dependents on everybody else, because everybody else is lining up and allying themselves against us. Because right now in America today, you've really only got 2 types of people: white supremacists and those who identify with white supremacy. And that's really all you got them really trying to stress and promote. White supremacists and those who identify with it. That's where we're at today. And after you get socioeconomically on code, you then take it to the politics. You then take it to the media. Of course, once you have your economics together, you make your own media, which is what we do here at the Black Channel. This is what we do because nobody else talks about this. Nobody else talks about this. And if we didn't do it, no one else would be mentioning it. I would also like to say to Joe Biden's handlers, they listen to my program, I would like to tell you all that I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate you being so honest. I appreciate you coming out like you really are, Joe. I can actually respect a white supremacist who stands on what he believes. Now, I don't have total respect for you, Joe, because you ain't standing on it all the way, but you're coming out defending your bill, either because you think you're doing something politically savvy and that you're avoiding, quote, the mistakes that Hillary Clinton made. Whatever. But the bottom line is, Joe, you're at least being halfway honest about what you believe. And I can actually appreciate an honest white supremacist. I can appreciate an honest bigot. And Joe he didn't mention black people at all. Joe Biden didn't mention black people at all. Did you get that? Joe didn't mention black people at all when he was discussing the crime bill. In other words, he knows what he did, and he's trying to play around it. This is a cynical, racist, white supremacist ploy on the part of Joe Biden. He knows what he did. He knows what he did, and he's trying to get away with it. But he knows what he did. He knows. And now he's trying to see, brothers and sisters, he's trying to see if he can do something that hasn't been done since Ronald Wilson Reagan. Joe Biden is attempting to, and the Democrats are attempting to see if they can fundamentally recalibrate the demographic and political chessboard of America. They're trying to see if they can completely recalibrate the political playing field in America. That the discussion officially will exclude black people altogether, and it will simply be about white people and white people's interests. Which LGBT is theirs, not ours. And he wants to see if he can make the new normal, ignoring the oppression of black people, that this will now be simply the new normal, to the point that now they won't even mention it. That's what he's attempting to do right now, and for the next year and a half, they're going to try to get this through. That they can set up the playing board in such a way that it dismisses black people altogether, and what you end up with are Europeans and offshoots of European society, white supremacists and those who European white supremacists and those who identify with European culture, those who speak Spanish, a European language, those who speak Italian, those who speak German. We can go down the list. You're Irish, you're Brits, but people who come from European cultures, or people who admire European cultures, which is what makes black people so dangerous. All you have to do is go take a look at anime, and you can see how much Asian society admires white culture. Black people are a problem because genetic annihilation is a real fear among the dominant society. So when we start talking about this in this way, you've got to understand how they see us. Joe Biden is attempting to recalibrate the playing field of American politics. That from here on in, it will simply be a discussion about varying white supremacist interests, but that black people will be culturally and politically neutralized. Now, that's the bad news. The good news? The good news is it's going to take a lot more than that, Joe. You see, you've got the ability to start this. You don't have the ability to finish it. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton, and it won't work for you. But I'm glad, Joe. I'm glad that you're coming with your hands out. I'm glad that you're coming with your fists up. I'm glad that you're coming trying to see if you can put some makeup on your white supremacist pig and call it your daughter. I'm very glad that you're doing that, Joe. I couldn't have asked for it any other way. I am glad that Joe Biden is coming out defending the 1994 crime bill so that there is no ambiguity, there is no argument, and even the dumbest, densest, butt-dancing fool in black society can no longer say that Joe is one of the good guys. They'll simply have to say, well, I'd rather get beat by Master Joe than to get beat by Master Trump. That's what I like to have. I'd rather get beat by Master Biden than get beat by Master Trump, so that black folk in society can hear exactly how ludicrous and insane that type of coon talk is, so that we can have an honest discussion about this amongst ourselves, whether or not the person talking about they'd rather get beat by Master Joe. How about we don't get beat by nobody? How about that one? I want the people who are buck-dancing coons who dance at the altar of these people to finally have to admit what they are. I told you all Donald Trump was the best thing that happened to black folk in 50 years because it's created an environment where the white supremacists now have to be open and honest about who and what they are. They no longer are speaking in code. Brothers and sisters, I told you this a decade ago. The Black Channel from this very microphone told you a decade ago that they were dropping the code words. When I told you all what to expect going into the 21st century, if you all remember that broadcast, I told you what to expect, that you would have politicians openly saying nigger and they would not get run out of office. You'd have politicians who are dropping the code words, politicians defending racist practices. I just did the program. Remember 10 years ago, I did the 5 steps to Nazi Germany. I reiterated it here a couple of weeks ago. YouTube has been censoring the video. Brothers and sisters, fourth step of Nazi Germany. Your politicians making laws against you, and now they're not even apologizing for them. If you doubted that we already passed the 4th step, we passed that decades ago. Now, the only question is whether or not you are going to be one of those people. Remember what I've always told you all. There is no black person in America who is ignorant about white supremacy or unaware of it. Not a single one. There are only 2 types of black people in America. Those who know that racism exists and fight it, and those who know that racism exists and go back to picking the cotton. Those are the only 2 types of black people that you have on American soil. Because everybody knows racism exists, and you either choose to fight it or you choose to try to keep your head down and hope they don't kill you today and go back to picking the cotton. Now, Joe Biden and the Democrat Party are gambling the dice that there are enough black folk glued to their cell phones, there are enough black folk detached from reality, there are enough black folk who are buying into interracial sexual access, intersectionalism, and assimilationist lifestyle that that vote will be neutralized enough that there will enough of them will vote for them that we will be inconsequential. Joe, you wouldn't be backtracking and trying to defend the crime bill if that were true. If that were true, you wouldn't be trying to defend that crime bill now, Joe. If that were true. If that were true, Barack Obama would be out there campaigning with you, Joe. If you didn't think that you created a mass incarceration environment, and if you thought that Barack Obama was as great as you tried to say he was in that speech a couple of days ago, where was Obama to be with you? The truth of the matter is you're losing. The truth of the matter is that Obama don't want that smoke, and you don't want it either. The truth of the matter is you understand that you are dealing with a losing proposition, and you're trying to talk past black black society to the bigot wing of black society. And now Joe Biden is speaking the way that Bill Clinton did when he said, well, you know, there were black politicians who voted for it. I can't wait for Joe to trot that one out. I can't wait for Joe to trot that one out. Brothers and sisters, how long do you think it's going to be before Joe Biden trots out some variation of, well, you know, there were black politicians like Charlie Rangel. There were black politicians. The Congressional Black Caucus supported the 1994 crime bill too. Brothers and sisters, how long you figure it's going to be before he trots that one out? Bill Clinton did it, so another white male running for president, Bill Clinton did it. How long you figure it's going to be before Joe trots out some variation of, well, there were black politicians who supported the crime bill too? You want to wager on that one? Because I'm predicting to you officially right now, Joe is going to trot out some variation of that. Joe Biden is going to trot out some variation of, well, you know, there were black politicians who did it too. There were black politicians who did it too, you know. But I'm going to tell you right now, Joe, the road to the White House runs through Black Street. The road to the White House runs through the black media. So you can go talk to Roland the Sidekick Martin. That ain't going to help you. You can talk to Tom Overboard Joyner. That ain't going to help you. You can talk to the dead black media. You can try to prop up banana big bird looking Negroes. You can try that. And Donald Trump is going to skate to re-election. You know why, Joe? Because if the next election becomes a competition between which white male can be the better white supremacist, Donald Trump's gonna kick your ass with all 4 feet. Joe Biden, if you and the Democrats believe that you can allow the next presidential election to degenerate into a contest between which old loud-ass Eastern ethnic white male is the better white supremacist mouthpiece, Donald Trump, Joe, I know you figure you're the best at it, but Donald Trump's a hell of a better salesman and a hell of a better talker than you are. He will kick your ass coming and going if this becomes a contest between which one of you is the better bigot. So if you think you're going to come out and be a slick and smooth bigot and somehow beat Trump, no, fella. When this country has a choice between full-flavored white supremacy and diet white supremacy, they choose full-flavored white supremacy every time. Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. Bill Clinton. And then in post-racial America, in so-called supposed post-racial America, now you have Donald Trump. So if you believe for a second that Joe Biden is going to be able to out-white supremacist Donald Trump, you ain't paying no damn attention. If this becomes about which one of you can be the crazier white supremacist, you might as well go ahead and start swearing Trump in now and just save us the expense and the wall-to-wall TV coverage of you getting your ass licked. You might as well just stop. Save yourself the embarrassment of 16 months of getting your ass beat in. But I suppose Joe wants the feather in his cap of saying that he was the presidential nominee of the Democratic Party so he can retire from the Senate and go on speaking tours and do the Al Gore thing Most likely that's what Joe Biden is trying to do now. Name for me a single policy that Donald Trump has toward black people that Joe Biden opposes. I'll wait for that one. Tell me a single policy that Donald Trump has toward black people that Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden fundamentally are against and are offering legislation against. Name one. You'll be here for a while trying to get one. No, I want there to be a clean distinction between the coons and the courageous. I want there to be a clear distinction between black society and black sycophants. I want there to be a clear distinction between intelligent black society and foolish black society. Between buck dancers and the best. I want there to be a clear distinction between all of us. I want all of us to have a clear distinction. I want it to be night and day so that the choice is clear, survival or subservience. And I would like to thank Joe Biden and the Democrats for panicking, for hitting the panic button and trying to push through as much of this as they can. If you had done this slowly, it would be so much harder to see you. But now that you've done this quickly, it's so much easier. This becomes so much easier to point out the distinctions because you're making it clear as day. You're not camouflaged anymore. So you're making our lives a lot easier. So that when I tell people that there is no difference between the Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives, that these are all flip sides of a white supremacist coin. There is only Democratic white supremacy and Republican white supremacy, conservative white supremacy and liberal white supremacy. They are all white supremacy. Choose your flavor. Now when we say those kind of things, at least now you are giving us proof to back up what we say. All of you are making our lives and our jobs a lot easier. A whole lot easier. Black folk, 2020, stay your ass home. Vote for a third or fourth party if you want to. Vote for the Green Party, the Blue Party, the Corn Party. Vote for whatever you want. Don't vote Democrat. Don't vote Republican. As long as you don't vote Democrat, you're not going to vote Republican anyway. Long as you don't vote for the flip side of white supremacy and let them pull that trick bag on us, stop voting for white supremacy. I don't want any flavor of white supremacy, full flavored or diet. I want neither. I want neither. Black folk have been living very uncomfortably for so damn long, and at this point right now, if we can't be comfortable, then everybody should be uncomfortable. If black folk are gonna be sacrificing and living without, then everybody needs to sacrifice and live without, and that's what it needs to be. So don't think you're gonna try it'll make things hard on y'all. It's already hard on us. It needs to be hard on everybody else now. If we're not going to get care and comfort, then nobody should receive care and comfort, and we can all just sit here and suffer together. Then let it be that. Let that be what it's going to be. Then we'll all just sit here and suffer together. But this idea that we're going to suffer and you're going to live high on the hog, oh hell no. Pull up a chair. If we got to get that smoke, everybody got to get it. And you know, we're built a little better for it than you are. I think you'll find that we're built a lot better for that type of punishment than you are. Your ability to tolerate it ain't nearly as high as ours. Not saying that's a good thing, but your ability to tolerate discomfort, your threshold for discomfort is a lot lower than ours. Try your best, we're ready. If you have not been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, that is blackchannelfilms.com, you definitely want to go there and check out our documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Ethnic Cleansing American Style, and our new documentary, Race War, currently on sale right now on Amazon and for streaming. If you are new here to the Black Channel and you have liked what you've heard, we do this every weekend, at least until I finish changing the schedule. We do this every weekend, so make sure you click that red subscribe button, and after you do that, you're going to see a bell come up. Make sure you click the notification bell. You have to do both of those things. You have to click the red subscribe button, and then you have to click the bell for notifications. If you don't do that, press the subscribe and then notifications, you probably won't receive notifications. So make sure you do both of those so that you can join us every week. If you're listening to me and been listening for the last hour here, it is because you are tired of being lied to. You are tired of being deceived. You understood that something was wrong and you wanted somebody who spoke directly to it. We are Intelligent Black Society, and this is what we do. We do not buck dance. We do not kowtow. We do not suck up, and we do not perform as tokens to large media corporations. There's nobody here trying to get a job at CNN so they have no leverage with which to get us to alter our message to make them comfortable. We are the black media. We speak solely in black people's interests, and we speak so unapologetically and without any type of reservation. We are unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Welcome to the black media. Click subscribe, click the notification bell, and join us. This concludes tonight's broadcast of the BlackChannel.net radio program. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is absolutely uncompromising.